I want to move to a story here before I forget. This was interesting because this question came up in the last week of question period. I think about a week ago now. And it was the conservative defense critic, James Bazan, who was actually an old friend. And he asked the defense minister, Bill Blair, what was the Canadian Navy, Royal Canadian Navy, doing down in Havana? And Bill Blair gave a horribly mangled response. It was barely coherent. And a lot of people commented, like, is there something wrong with Bill here? Because he really didn't seem to have a grasp of the answer. But the gist of his response was that the Navy was in Havana as part of some deterrence show against Russia because Russian ships had been there.
Foreign Affairs told CBC News last week that it was news to her that Russian warships are docked alongside one of our Canadian naval vessels in Havana to celebrate Canada-Cuba bilateral relations. And there's some eyebrows being raised because it's in port at the same time that Russian military vessels, including nuclear-powered submarines, are there. Why would Canada have a Canadian ship in a Cuban port at the same time as Russian military vessels are there?
Listen, this is something that I have to look much more closer to. This is an information that is news to me.
In Havana, celebrating the Cuban communist dictatorship. This morning, the Minister of National Defense was asked if he had told the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and of course, he denied it. Be it is both reckless and dangerous for the Liberals to honor Cuba, Russia's junior partner, and once again are undermining our relationship and support for Ukraine. So why is the Minister of National Defense using our Navy to cozy up to the communist regime in Cuba with our Russian adversaries?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to act surprised that the Conservatives are politicizing the Royal Canadian Navy deployments, but frankly, I'm not. To be very clear, Mr. Speaker, this was a military mission. Along with our American allies, the Canadian Navy and Air Force have been tracking the movements and activity of a Russian naval flotilla along the eastern seaboard and into Cuba with our Aurora aircraft and the HMSC Ville de Quebec. Upon the advice and at the request of the Royal Canadian Navy and the Canadian Joint Operations Command, I authorized the HMS Margaret Brooke to visit Havana. We were well aware that the Russians would be present at the same time, and we planned our mission accordingly.
Now, whether or not Bill Blair actually believed this or not, I doubt it very much. But how much does he not know about his own department if he didn't know what the Canadian Navy was actually doing? They were there to put on a conga show, entertainment for Havana. It had nothing to do with deterrence, and Blair was obviously aware of that. But he came up with this cover story. And I mean, get a load of this guy here. I mean, I don't know who this is, but I would suggest that perhaps the physical fitness requirements in the Canadian Armed Forces have been gradually reduced over the years, because I don't recall regular force people looking like this when I was in uniform. But I'm not making fun of the man's weight. Yeah, but the Canadian Armed Forces and the Canadian Navy used to have stringent regulations in terms of being physically fit. I know they got rid of the body mass index years ago, but I still thought you had to pass fitness tests twice a year. I did when I was in uniform, and I could still pass them today. But anyway, a little surprised to see this picture of this individual, and like I said, I don't know who it is, but he was. This photo was tweeted by the Canadian Embassy in Cuba. They're quite proud of this guy on the trumpet performing for the Cubans. Interesting, to say the least. But that is, we don't know.
I thought I was going to make it through this, but I'm not.
No, he's not. Ultimately, time is ticking away for Justin Trudeau. Thank you for watching this episode of Stand on Guard and being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right channel. If you've watched this episode to this point, You've watched it all, and that's really important for a small station like this. We always say subscribe, hit the bell, be a part of the Crayden resistance. Resolve to resist. That's what we're doing. And if you become a subscriber, if you're a supporter of this station or a member through Substack, through YouTube, and now you can be a local as well, that's so important to us because I couldn't do this without you. I made a decision to become an independent journalist about a year ago because I wanted to bring all of my experience in the military, in journalism, to you. I don't promise anything I can't deliver. I don't offer clickbait. I offer truth. The truth is out there, and it's my job to bring that truth to light and to you. Thanks for being a part of the Crayden's Right resistance, and we'll see you again soon. So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need a political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.